I hope that's all right. And so I'm not Major Sophia Ingram. She's also Lieutenant Colonel now, and this is not 2012. So we were having some technical difficulties, so we had to jump into the past. Go ahead and skip this one. But you definitely, it is still good information. I went through it real quick and looked at it to make sure. So, ethics, discipline of dealing with what's good and bad with moral duty and obligations. There's a whole regulation on the joint ethics regulation that covers all services and everything else. Now, ethical, conforming to the accepted professional standards of conduct. So, and really, you're presumed to know these things, and you're required to follow the rules. And there's a whole bunch of things in there that may or may not be perfectly common sense, so, but you're presumed to know them. So failure may result in criminal prosecution, a fine, or some sort of administrative action. So try and keep these things in mind. So really the underlying principle is you're a public servant. You are in public service. And it's public trust. And you gotta have loyalty. You gotta have honesty and impartiality. And you gotta protect your federal property. You gotta disclose anytime there's waste, fraud, and abuse. We don't like waste, fraud, and abuse. Adherence to EEO laws, so EO, those kind of things, equal opportunity. Satisfaction of financial obligations. Applying principles to propriety of conduct. Now, I think we hit all these separately. So applying principles to the propriety of conduct. Avoiding appearance in violation of law. Governing ethics. So even the appearance. So if you look at something that you're doing, you take a step back and you say, ooh, the newspaper it's the New York Times rule. You know, the newspaper gets a hold of this, and people are going to cry foul. They're going to say, man, what in the world are our government doing? You know what? You might not actually broke a rule, but it just looks like you broke a rule. That's actually a problem too. There's a rule that says if you look like you're breaking a rule, you're breaking a rule. So, if you have any questions, and a lot of things, we tend to be willing to approach pretty close to the line. When it comes to ethics, don't get close. If it looks like it smells bad, then you're hitting that appearance thing. Just don't get close to that line. But if you have a question, just reach out. When you guys are in theater, you guys are going to have access to JAG over there as well. Just reach out. They'll give you help. And so ethics includes all kinds of things, including gifts. So we say how you can give and receive from outside sources or between yourselves. Because it can either actually create a conflict or appear to, right? If you're getting gifts if somebody's getting gifts from Boeing and they then award Boeing a huge contract, that at very least looks like it could be a problem. So we want impartiality in the performing of official duties. So we regulate how you can give and receive. So ethical issues to be considered, seeking other employment. So if you're seeking other employment, you know, that if you're trying to get employed with this company that you just gave a contract to, that could be a problem. Misuse of position, outside activities, political, social activities. And we'll go ahead and flip. Basic prohibitions, an employee or service member. Technically, you guys aren't employees as service members. Shall not solicit or accept a gift given because his or her official position or from a prohibited source. So, you may not directly or indirectly solicit or accept a gift. You can't ask for it, indirectly or correctly. And you can't do it from a prohibited source, or if it's given because you're official position. Contractor is a prohibited source. So anytime there's a contractor, you guys may be working with contractors over there, there's going to be some rules with regard to gifts. Whether you can give them gifts, whether you can take anything from them. Gift is really anything of monetary value. Gifts from outside sources. Unsolicited items less than $20 per occasion and $50 per year from any one source, calendar year, from any one source. If contractors contribute as part of a donating group, may not exceed $20. So that's the 20-50 rule. If you're going to give gifts among yourselves, has to be less than $20. The guy accepting can only accept up to $50 of value a year. Now, there's some rules on certain awards and honorary degrees. Free attendance provided to an event the employee is participating in. Free attendance might be a gift. Seek out your JAG to get an opinion. Travel entertainment for employment purposes. Seek out an opinion. Limitations on the use of exceptions. The employee may not use exceptions to solicit, coerce the offering of a gift or to accept gifts. Disposition of gifts, various methods. So you can actually, there are circumstances under which you can accept a gift if you, certain people can accept gifts on behalf of the U.S. government, certain people, you may be able to pay the market value. Make sure you're paying the market value for things. You might be able to return it, you might be able to donate it, you might be able to destroy it, or share it. There's some specific rules. If you run into this, come ask, because the exceptions, there's reams of paper and case law on those things. So, now, an employee may not give to or solicit a gift from a superior. That's hard and fast rule pretty much, except there's exceptions, like there always is. You'll find in this realm, there's a huge number of exceptions, but there's a huge number of ways to fall into a pit. So, like I said, you're going to want to come talk to your JAG. Accept a gift from a lower paid employee, so unless the donor or recipient is not a superior or subordinate relationship. So, basically, if you're in a subordinate superior relationship, you're not talking gifts for the most part. So, gifts between employees exceptions. So items less than $10 per occasion. Office shared food, you can do that. That doesn't count. Personal hospitality at a residence. So if you happen to let somebody stay the night for some reason. Leave sharing, there's specific rules on that. Your HR folks will let you know if there's an opportunity for leave sharing. Infrequent occasion of personal significance or upon the termination of a superior subordinate relationship. Baby shower, something like that. Or a change of command. There's some exceptions there. Government personnel can give a gift to a contractor employee. However, you may not accept a gift from a contractor unless an exception applies. Go ahead. Employees' financial, so here we're witnessing conflicts of interest. Employees' financial interests are subject to criminal conflict of interest statute. So that's U.S. Code, or the agency supplement there too. Disqualifying interests affect finances of self, your spouse, your minor child, your general partner, or others that are served. So even a gift to your spouse is covered by this. Give to your child. So your official duties, so you can't accept gifts that are given on the basis of your official position or for the performance of your official duties. Impartiality and performance. So when you're doing your official duties, you need specific authorization required if your impartiality is in question. If it looks like you might not be impartial, if it looks like you might have a conflict, then you need specific authorization to be able to work on that thing. Matters covered, any involving interest of self, member of household, a member of your household, your close personal, or any business relationships. If it affects any of those things, then you have, your impartiality is in question. You need specific authorization to continue working, or you may have to not work on it. All right, and disqualification applies as under financial interest. So, government resource types of use. You got prohibited use, so that's the big red stoplight. It's unrelated to mission. Authorized use. So if it's unrelated to mission, you cannot use government resources. If we're talking about authorized use, there might be something that this might relate to the mission. If it relates to the mission, then you can possibly do it. And then there's official use. It's directly related to and necessary for accomplishing the mission. You're good to go. You're going to be covered. You can use government resources for those kinds of things. If it's just ancillary support of the mission, you might be able to. But if it's something that you absolutely need, you're good to go. Now, misuse of government resources, employees shall protect and conserve federal property and shall not use it for other than authorized purposes. Your computer and GSA vehicle misuse, those are two big ones that a lot of people catch. So make sure when you're using a computer that you're using it for government business. But so your types of resources, you got telephones, cell phones, fax machines, scanners, whatever else. Anything that's government owned is a government resource, right? Use of these resources are only official and authorized use. Now, does that mean you can't call from your office telephone? You can't call your spouse? You know what? Probably not. There's some exceptions for some real limited use that doesn't interfere with your business, but for the most part, it's only official purposes. So communications that are necessary in the interest of government are authorized official use. Emergency communications, morale and welfare communications. So those things you'll be able to do. Personal communications from the office. It doesn't adversely affect official duties, reasonable duration. You're not calling for 4 hours. Legitimate public interest. Doesn't reflect adversely on DoD. You're not calling, I don't know, somebody at a strip club. Doesn't overburden the communication system, and creates no significant additional costs. So that's your analysis, but check your local command policy if you guys will have one. All right. Your prohibited use of government resources. Pornography, do not do that. No. Chain letters, unofficial advertising, solicitation, or sales, conducting outside commercial activities. So you're not going to use your government computer to conduct your business if you own your own business. Other inappropriate uses. If it seems like it's not related to the government, don't do it. All right. Misuse of position. So, use of public office for private gain. You guys are now? Your office, your position in the military is not for your own gain. You're here serving. That's what we do, right? We serve. And so it's not for your own private gain. Your purpose is to help the government. So, if you gain, no, you're good. He's keeping me going. If you gain non-public information through federal employment, so it's permissible to use that information for personal financial, it is impermissible, excuse me, goodness gracious, that was close. To use that information for personal financial transactions or to further private interests, no insider trading, those kind of things. If you get it as part of your employment, don't use it for anything other than your employer, if it's non-public information. Seeking other employment, any form of non-federal business relationship involving provision of personal services. This includes mutually conducted employment negotiations. So if you're just sending an unsolicited resume or proposal, employment contact by or through others. So your outside activities, when you can't accept office or title or compensation from a foreign government. You just can't do it. You guys, you're an agent of this government. You can't be accepting things from others. Engaging in representational activities for the U.S. government. So you can't, if the U.S. government's on one side, you can't be on the other. You guys have chosen sides. Sorry. Prohibition of employees participating in certain partisan political activities. So, you guys all have rights, but by putting this on, you have less. Because you do have some limitations, right? You can't go to a rally dressed like this. You can't go to some sort of political rally. And so, partisan political activities, there's things you can still do. You can get in your civilians and go to a partisan political activity on your own time, but not as an employee, right? Not as a soldier. When serving as an expert witness, if you ever serve as an expert witness, if that ever happens, you must not represent anyone other than the U.S. if the U.S. is a party to or has a direct interest in any court proceedings. So you may be called, let's say there's a court case, you may be called as a witness for some reason. You may be called as a witness for a party on the other side than the U.S. government. That happens. But you can't be called as an expert witness. You can't offer them your services as an expert. If that ever comes up, go talk to your dad. Fundraising may engage in charitable efforts if in a personal capacity. So while you guys are here as soldiers, you can't be going around fundraising with your other soldiers. I mean, just can't do it. There's one exception to this. There's thank you, CFC. I was trying to remember what it was. So the CFC is one exception because that's put out by the feds. It is the one exception. All right. Teaching, speaking, and writing. So if you guys are asked to teach, speak, and write, and you shall not receive compensation if it's related to your official duties. If it's outside your official duties on your own personal time, and you're not representing yourself, it's not because you're a soldier, it's not because of any of those kind of things, go for it. But otherwise, you're not going to get compensation while it's for your official duties. Okay. Charitable fundraising. Contractor personnel cannot solicit government personnel, and vice versa. So, just generally good rule, don't solicit anything. Approved official fundraising, because there it is, CFC, and certain service related such as Navy mutual aid and some other ones that are in the regulations, but for the most part, you're going to be stuck with CFC and that's it. Contractor personnel can donate but should not be solicited. So they can give, don't ask them to give. Awesome. Yeah. Nepotism. Public official may not appoint, promote, or advocate employment of a relative within his or her agency. Who's a public official? Well, this category includes military or civilian personnel who have the authority to appoint, promote, or recommend employment. So, if you fit any of those categories, you don't advocate for your own family. All right. Your Hatch Act, this is the political activity thing. As regards National Guard technicians specifically. Federal employees may be candidates for public office in nonpartisan elections. So nonpartisan elections, there are certain positions that you may, if they're elected for a library, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something, but if it's not Republican versus Democrat, then you're probably going to be okay. But before you go for any public office, it's probably a good idea to contact Dr. J. Contribute money to political organizations. So you can contribute money. You can attend political fundraising functions in your personal capacity. Attend and be active at political rallies. Make campaign speeches for candidates in partisan elections. So you can make a campaign speech in your own personal capacity, out of uniform, all those things. And you can hold office in political clubs or parties. So you got a the Young Republicans or something. You can hold office in that, in your own personal capacity, but and then, so that's something. You can't use official authority or influence to interfere with an election. Solicit or discourage political activity of anyone with business before their agency. So anyone with business before you, you can't say, hey, you gotta, you can't do that political activity, or you need to do this one. Solicit or receive political contributions. Be candidates for public office in partisan elections. We had recently, Major Ben Carpenter was elected to State House, but that was after he was Major Ben Carpenter retired. He did not start his election until after, because he was not a candidate until he was out. Engage in political activity while on duty. You can't do that. So when you're off duty, you can. Don't do it on duty. Government personnel are prohibited from conducting political activities in the workplace or from engaging in some political activity. So don't do it at work. Contractor employees are not bound by the same rules. They're bound by their employer's rules. They're contracted out. Contracts should prohibit, though, contractor or employee from political activities in the workplace. So those things should be part of the contract, but if they're not, contractors are only bound by their contract. Government site regulations prohibit political posters, signs, or activities. So don't have those up. In your workplace, you can't have political posters, signs, or activities. So, we're going to skip this one. You guys got any questions? I know that was long. Nope. All right. Thank you much for bearing with me.